Thoth was considered the great measure. He was the god of measurements and of libraries and of recordings. But the goddess before that was Seshat, a female goddess. And she was a priestess, and she had a black leopard skin across her body, because a black leopard represents the night sky, and those spots represent the stars in the sky. And then you'll see her with a feather on the top of her head, or what you'll see is a crown with a 7-pointed star, because she measured the stars. And then you'll see her with a stylus and a tablet, because she was the goddess of the libraries. And she was also, whether it was Thoth or Seshat, they measured and laid the foundations for all of the temples and for all of the pyramids. And so some of what we're going to do is going to go into some speculation, but we'll do some more of the math. And here they're showing you that quadrant, that 90-degree quadrant. I wish I had a pencil. Maybe I have one over here. That 90-degree quadrant being equal to a face of the pyramid. And then as a ratio proportion, then the base of the pyramid equaled the equator. They knew the circumference of the equator. And you know, we think from the Middle Ages that the ancients thought the world was flat. Oh, no, no, no. They knew the world was round. They knew exactly how big it was, the circumference. They knew longitude and latitude. And they certainly knew that the planets went revolved around the sun. Okay, it was only after the Dark Ages and recovering our knowledge that we had that concept that the world was flat and we were going to fall off the edge. But not in the ancient world. They were fully aware of it.
Well, people didn't travel then. Do you suppose it was the unconscious, that some connection, or there were space?
No, I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's true at all. They did travel. If you ever read Kon-Tiki, he showed that you, as Polynesians, could go through the islands, and that they're very clear that the American Indians came across the Bering Strait and down and populated all of the Americas. And then I've investigated on the chakras, or the lunar mansions, are the oldest astrology of all is lunar, before it became solar, and the lunar mansions are the oldest. And I have gone through some reference books that show that parts of the lunar mansions are on every single continent on the Earth. Not all of them, but most of them. So, and the oldest records in prehistoric man is notching the cycle of the moon on bone. And the Chinese definitely followed that. They have the most concise records of all that go back 2,000 years, because they weren't invaded and all the records weren't destroyed like everybody did in the Old World or in the New World, because the Catholic priests did that in South America and Central America too, because they had some very good records and they felt so threatened by those records. I mean, always when you invade and take over a country, you always kill the royalty, you always kill the learned people, and you destroy the libraries so that you can make slaves out of the population. I mean, that's the modus operandi.
Yes, it does. History repeats itself.
Sorry.
So, and this is a very specific case. I hate to bore you with the math, but it winds up being important, is that spherical quadrant onto a flat triangle, correctly, the arc or base of the quadrant must be the same as the length of the base, and both must have the same height for this ratio to work. This happens to be the case only in the cross-section or meridian bisection of the Great Pyramid, whose sloped angle gives the pi relationship between height and base. So it's not a coincidence. We can't say, oh, they just happens to be 3-1. No. You have to have these exact ratios, or you cannot have this representation. So it's not an accident. It was absolutely planned. And I added this picture today, only that well, this was 2 pages of math objects, but the bottom is the important. With the pyramid, the ancient Egyptians had not only squared the circle, but effectively cubed the square. which is mathematically is hard to do. So they were very advanced mathematicians, but not the way we see math these days. In fact, if we studied mathematics the way they did, you could all be master mathematicians, because it was all about studying the relationship of number and ratio to each other. And they measured by the chord, so it was all proportion, because they didn't do mathematics the way we do it at all. So this is a big supposition of how we came to using, how we measure. So as let's think of Thoth and Seshat, they lay out the coordinates. They had spent years already laying out the foundation markers where they knew exactly where geographic north, east, and west was, where they knew the angles, and they laid that foundation first, and then they partially build the flat part of the pyramid. But you have during the process of building, you have a perfect observation area where you can measure the seasons. Oops, I went too far. So this is Proctor's speculation, but he observed that platform, that the cardinal points and compass roads could have been marked by high upright posts, and he had little tiny dots here, 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 and there. There's our cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. Now doesn't that look like an old horoscope that you see those lines? Mm-hmm. To locate the rising and setting of the stars east and west, azimuth observers could occupy the center of the square from which they could command the entire compass. So it's an automatic observation tower. And then by placing the gallery, that's the gallery, one of the great walking stairways into the pyramid, slightly to the east of the north-south axis, the ancient astronomers could make their observations from the center of the truncated square, and a gnome or shadow pole could be raised in dead center. That such a square was a prototype for astrological as well as astronomical computations is strikingly illustrated below in the format of horoscopes from the 17th century. So the measurements that you would use on an observation platform are exactly matching the kind of angles you see in the old square horoscopes from the medieval tradition, the Latin tradition. Now this is a speculation by Proctor, but it's not an unreasonable speculation when you realize that they were master astronomers and astrologers. For Proctor, the Great Pyramid thus constructed, go back, has been the greatest observatory and the most perfect till the art of the telescope could reveal a way to more exact observation without the need of such a massive structure. And that is said in this book, and the book is Secrets of the Great Pyramid. It's been around for 30 years. I mean, this is the bulk of where I get all of it. Secrets of the Great Pyramid. They did one also for the Mayan pyramids. There's a book just like this. But there's been so much speculation, at least you have some, I think, obvious correlations, but in academia, I mean, they just had on the History Channel, no, it was on Channel 9, KLRU, they did one on the Sphinx in the pyramid, and they totally dismissed the age of the Sphinx. They didn't even talk about that. And if you looked at some of the more esoteric things that have gone on, they had a geologist, Sprock, I can't remember his name, but a certified, PhD geologist that said the body of the Sphinx has to be very, very old because it's had so much rain undulation from when it was carved. And they're saying it goes back to the middle period to Corfu. They claim that the face is in Corfu, but other criminologists have done the face of the Sphinx, and it doesn't matches Corfu's face. So it's the claim